ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأطهرين، سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم ملعونين. أما بعد، السلام عليك يا أهل بيت النبوة وموضع الرسالة ومختلف الملائكة ومحبط الوحي. For the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziyah, for the enlightenment of the graves of your marhumin, of the graves of the shuhada, ulama and siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahl al-Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam arwahun al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who's Rahman and the one who's Rahim. That Lord that has blessed us with the wilayat of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. That Lord that has chose us worthy to sit in the Majlis of Imam al-Hussein, where even your size are counted as tasbih. The sixth Imam, Imam al-Sadiq salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi, he says, النفس المحموم لظلمنا تسبيح. Says your sighs that you let out when you hear about the dhulm that happened on us is tasbih. It is as if you are saying Subhanallah. وَهَمُّهُ لَنَا عِبَادَةً. And the sorrow you feel in your heart for us is ibadah. وَكِتْمَانُ سِرِّنَا جِحَادٌ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And hiding our secrets from the enemies is jihad in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the narration says that Imam al-Sadiq says, Yajib, it is wajib, it is necessary, yajib, necessary, and yaktuba hadha al-hadith bima'i dhahab, that you write this hadith in gold water. That in it is much of the secrets, much of the realities. Just your sighs for Imam al-Hussein are tasbih. Just the pain in your heart that you have for him is ibadah. Because this love isn't just given out like this. As I said on the first night, it was earned. This love is not easy to come by. But once one has found it, it's easy to comprehend. What is difficult is maintaining the rules of love. إن لقتل الحسين حرارة في قلوب المؤمنين لا تبرد أبدا. The Holy Prophet says, surely through the killing of Hussein ibn Ali, a fire is ignited in the hearts of a believer, a fire that shall never subside. Meaning this passion that you have in these first 10 nights, this desire that you have to attend the Majlis, this fervor that you have to change yourself, if it dies down after the 10 days, then we can only conclude that I'm not amongst the mu'mineen. But if it remains and it continues to burn within my chest all year round, then that is the sifat of the mu'min. That is the characteristic of the mu'min. Do not consider these majalis to be something small and insignificant. Even if, for my younger brothers especially, the things that you hear may be going over your head, but just sitting in the gathering, just being in the gathering where the names of Ahlul Bayt are mentioned, this is ibadah. This is raising your maqam, your status in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have been looking at Ziyarat Jami'a Kabira. Yesterday we started the part of Mukhtalaf al-Malaika, that Ahlul Bayt are the place where the Malaika descend. They are the place where the angels go down. And we said there were 4 reasons, but we only managed to discuss 2 yesterday. We said the first reason for Ahlul Bayt being Mukhtalaf al-Malaika is for the administration of the umur, the amr that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down in the running of this world. And we went through all of the ahadith, or some of the ahadith, to be able to illustrate the fact that Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam in their batini wujud administered the dunya in its physical sense. Now this relationship, sometimes we may not understand that how is it that there is something in the batin, and then how does it translate to the physical? Let me give you an example. When you're walking and you stub your toe, you stub your toe. Initially the pain that is felt by your soul. Your soul feels that pain. It then allows for that pain to pass through the receptors, pass into the receptors, which then goes into your brain. Your whole body is being run by your soul. We often mistake it and say the soul is in the body. No, the body is in the soul. The body is in the soul. When that soul is removed, you cease to exist. This body is useless. So that soul, the easiest way to explain it is that malakuti power from the batini realms that is running your mulki self, that is your body. The same way, raindrops fall here in the physical, but in the batin, the soul of the world, they are being brought down by angels. Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe so. Everyone's just looking at me blankly. So okay, inshallah, I hope it makes some level of sense, inshallah. If not, we'll try and explain it another way. Khair. So the first is through the umur, the administration of the umur. That's why they are mukhtalaf al-malaika. The second reason for Ali Muhammad being the place of the coming and the going of the angels is that the angels bring for them the a'mal of the people and the jinn. Every day, weekly, monthly, yearly, we have narrations to the effect that all of the a'mal of individuals are presented to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Again, we're referring to the batini self of Ahlul Bayt. And this is very important that you understand this batini self. Depending on how this lecture goes, I'll decide whether or not I go into more depth tomorrow about this without inshallah fear of confusing people even more than they look confused right now. So it goes to the batini wujud of Ali Muhammad. It's all linked there. So they bring the a'mal. The third reason is this, that the malaika are mukhtalif al-malaika. I mean, Ahlul Bayt are mukhtalif al-malaika, the place of the coming and going of the angels, because of their service to Ali Muhammad, because of servitude to Ali Muhammad. Salman, you all know, was a frequent visitor to the house of Hazrat Zahra salamullah alayha, and he was one of her. He was one of her servants. He had made himself one of her servants, and he was also the student of Sayyidah Zahra salamullah alayha. He was also her student, and that's why you have Dua un-Nur that is narrated by Salman, but he says that the daughter of Rasulullah told me to recite it, and many other things like that. Salman was so loved that if Salman didn't go to the house, Sayyidah would say, Salman, you didn't come to our house today. I was missing you. Or if he was to come to the house and he came late, say, Salman, make sure you come earlier. Why do you come so late? Come earlier. We want to see you early on in the day. Spend as much time with you. Imagine the maqam of Salman. Imagine the maqam of Salman. That Ahlul Bayt desire to spend time with him. Ajab, the maqam of Salman. So one day Salman says, I went to the house of Sayyidah and I saw that she was milling the flour mill herself, and the handle of the flour mill was bloodied because of the blisters on her hands, and Imam al-Hussein was crying as well. So I said to her, Sayyidah, where is Fidda? Is Fidda not your servant that she works in this house? Where is she? Says Salman, when Fidda was given to me by Rasulullah, my father said to me, you separate the work between yourself and Fidda. One day you do the work, one day Fidda will do the work. Salman, today is the day off of Fidda. It is her day to rest, so I'm doing all the work. Salman says to her, Sayyidah, I am your servant as well. Let me do something. Do you want me to go and take care of Hussein alayhi salam, or should I mill the flour? She says to him, Salman, you mill the flour, I'll take care of Hussein. He says, I began to mill the flour. A short while later, the sound of the adhan went off. So I went to her and said, Sayyidah, do I have your permission? I want to go and pray salah. She says, yeah, go. So Salman, he goes to the masjid. After salah, he sees Amir al-Mu'mineen, Rasulullah. He says to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Ali, what was happening in the house? Do you know what I saw? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, tell me. He says, I saw that Zahra alayha salam was milling the flour. Her hand was bloodied. The handle of the flour mill was bloodied. Imam al-Hussein was crying. He told Amir al-Mu'mineen began to cry, began to weep. And it's ajib, this dichotomy that exists in the wujud of Amir al-Mu'mineen. One is Ali in the battlefield in the face of the kuffar, but yet at the same time, A small thing like that, and Ali cries. Or he gets told a small matter like that, and he cries. This huge dichotomy, almost we would refer to it as these polar opposites. But yet they were all in the wujud of this single individual, brave in the battlefield. Almost when it came to when it came to defending Islam, like a raging lion. But yet in the masjid, Mawlaya ya Mawla, أنت القوي وأنا الضعيف. ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاؤه البكاء. Have mercy on me. Anyhow, Amir al-Mu'mineen begins to cry. He runs to the house. He goes, a short while later, he comes back smiling. Rasulullah says to him, Ali, what happened? You left crying, you returned smiling. Says, Ya Rasulullah, I went inside the house and I saw that the flour mill was moving itself, and Zahra alayha salam was asleep on the bed with Imam al-Hussein on her chest. He too was asleep. Rasulullah looks towards him. He says, Ya Ali, ama alimta anna lillah malaikatul sayyaratan fil ard yakhdimuna Muhammadan wa ala Muhammad. Ya Ali, are you not aware that Allah has appointed angels that go around the whole earth, and their sole job is to be the khadim of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad? Says, are you not aware? Recite aloud salawat. What do the Urdu Maulana say? Mere khamosh dosto. Aloud is salawat. So the third reason is that the malaika are the khadim of Ahl al-Bayt, and so they constantly come to the imams in order to offer service. The fourth reason for Ahl al-Bayt being mukhtalif al-malaika is even after their death, they serve their harams and they surround their dharih. We have a hadith. Forget the hadith for a second. When you go and you go on ziyarat Karbala, Mashhad, Baghdad, Samarra, each one of you recites idhn al-dukhul, the permission to enter into the inner sanctum of the grave of the Imam. What do you say in that? Adkhulu ya Rasulallah. Do I have permission to enter, Ya Rasulullah? And then you get to the point, adkhulu ya malaikatillah. O malaika of Allah, who have been stationed at this maqam, do you give me permission to enter as well? The malaika have been given this place. You look in the ziyarat of Abu Abdullah. Assalamu alaykum ya mala'ikat Allah al-muqimin fi hadha al-maqam al-sharif. Oh, those mala'ikat that have been stationed at this place. So even after their death, they serve. In Kamil al-Ziyarat of Ibn Ghulaway, there is a riwayah that says on the day of Ashura, 4,000 angels came down to help Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. 4,000 angels came down to help Imam al-Hussein. They were the same 4,000 angels that helped the Prophet in the battle of Badr. On the day of Ashura, they came to Imam al-Hussein. See, the jinns came as well. Imam sent them back. Then the malaika came. 4,000 malaika They said, we were the ones that helped your grandfather in Badr. Yabna Rasulillah, if you tell us, let us join you in this battle. Imam al-Hussein sent them back. He said, no, the people must be tested. The people must be tested. These malaika wanted to return. These malaika wanted to return. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no, don't come back to heaven. You 4,000 malaika until the day of judgment will be stationed at the grave of Imam al-Hussein, and your role is to do what? Whenever the Zahir of Imam al-Hussein comes to Karbala, you serve them, you look after them. If someone wants to send salam towards Imam al-Hussein and they're far away, you bring their salam and you present it to Abi Abdullah. The third thing that you shall do, that at the time of their death, anyone that is the Za'ir of Imam al-Hussein, at the time of his death, you will go by the side of his bed and make his transition into the Akhirah one of ease. They are the Khadim of Ahlul Bayt even after their death. And for this reason, we refer to Ahlul Bayt as Mukhtalaf al-Malaika. The next line in the ziyarah is وَمَحْبَطَ الْوَحِي. And you, Ahlul Bayt, are the place of wahi. Are the place of wahi. You are the place upon which the wahi, the revelation, is revealed. Now, it's an odd statement because we all know the famous ahadith that the wahi was cut upon the death of the Prophet. In fact, Jibreel comes and he says to the Holy Prophet, Ya Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, هذا آخر النزول إلى الدنيا. This, O Prophet of God, is my last descent to the dunya, is my last time in coming to the dunya, meaning that this is the last time. Or then Amirul Mu'mineen, when he's giving ghusl to the Holy Prophet, and while he's given ghusl, he says, بأبي أنت وأمي يا رسول الله لقد انقطع موتك ما لم ينقطع بموت غيرك من النبوة والإنباء وأخبار السماء. He says, may my father and mother be sacrificed over you, Ya Rasulullah. With your death, a thing has been cut off that was never cut off through the death of any other person. What was that? Akhbaru sama, yani that wahi. So we have many narrations like this that say that the wahi is cut off. So then why in Ziyarah Jami'a Kabira is Imam al-Hadi saying, Ahl al-Bayt, you are mahbitul wahi. You are the place of wahi. And it's a good question to have. What sort of wahi is coming to Ahlul Bayt? To understand this, we need to understand the types of wahi. The types of wahi. There are two types of wahi that come upon the human being. Upon the human being. Because you know, you're familiar with the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about wahi on the bee. وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَى النَّحْلِ. And your Lord did wahi, inspired, revealed upon the bee. So we're talking specifically about the wahi upon human beings. Upon human beings. And there are two types that come upon the human being. The first type is known as wahi nabawi or tashri'i. It's referred to interchangeably. Wahy al-Nabawi or Wahy al-Tashri'i, Wahy of Sharia. And the second type of wahy that comes to the human being is Wahy ilhami, the wahy of divine inspiration. The first type of wahy, Wahy al-Nabawi or Tashri'i, as the name suggests, is specific to the Anbiya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the prophets of God. Why? Because this is Wahy Tashri'i. It has Sharia within it. It has a Sharia within it. So, and very specifically to the Ulil Azm prophets who brought a Sharia, who brought books from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a Sharia. And they were charged with passing that Sharia to the rest of mankind. So this first type of Wahy Tashri'i is a Wahy that has Sharia in it, and it comes to only the prophets of God. Now there are three methods in which the Wahy is revealed. And in the Holy Quran, in Surah Shura, Shura, not Shu'ara, Surah Shura, verse number 51, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَمَا كَانَ لِبَشَّرٍ أَن يُكَلِّمَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَّا, says, and it is not for any mortal that Allah should speak to him, إِلَّا wahyan. The first is that He should speak to him directly. These are the three methods of wahy, three methods of divine revelation. Wahyan. أو من وراء الحجاب, or from behind a curtain, from behind a barrier. أو من وراء حجاب. The third, أو يرسل رسولا فيوحي بإذنه ما يشاء. The third is, or through a messenger that has been sent by Allah to reveal through the idhn of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are the three methods of the wahy. Let's look at them in a little bit more depth. The first type, wahyan, is the direct wahy, meaning that there is no curtain, there is no wasila, there is nothing. There is the individual and God. And the ultimate misdaq, the ultimate individual that embodies this type of wahy is none other than the wujud of the Holy Prophet of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. He is the ultimate example of it. Look at Surah An-Najm, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the Mi'raj. Says, فَأَوْحَى إِلَىٰ عَبْدِهِ مَا أَوْحَى. And He revealed to His servant that which He wished to reveal. مَا كَذَبَ الْفُؤَادُ مَا رَأَى. He didn't lie, or he doesn't lie, that his heart had seen God. Someone asked the sixth Imam, said, how was this conversation where the Holy Quran is saying that فَأَوْهَى إِلَىٰ عَبْدِهِ أَوْهَى, that God revealed unto His servant that which He wanted to reveal on the night of Mi'raj? Imam as-Sadiq, he says, وَحْيٌ مُشَافِحَةً. This was a wahy face to face. Metaphorically, Allah doesn't have a face. Well, metaphorically He does, but it's a different matter. I won't go into that. Metaphorically, face to face, Allah spoke directly to the Holy Prophet. And there are different occasions where this happened, and it only happened for the Holy Prophet, this direct wahy from amongst the Anbiya. It was on the night of Mi'raj, but also riwayat say that there was direct wahy on two other occasions. One, the final two ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah, they are direct wahy upon the Prophet. No Jibreel, nothing else. It was a direct wahi on the Prophet, and also the whole of Surah Al-Ma'idah was a direct wahi on the Prophet from Allah directly to the Holy Prophet, while the Prophet was on earth, or upon the batini wujud of the Holy Prophet. And that's why these are the narrations that talk about that the Holy Prophet would keep on fainting. When we spoke about it a couple of days ago as well, that the Holy Prophet would continue to faint as the wahi was coming. This wasn't the other wahi where Jibreel is coming, because we said that Jibreel, according to the narrations, would sit in front of the Holy Prophet like a servant. But it was only when this direct wahi would come upon the Holy Prophet that he would be under extreme pressure. That they would say that if he was on a ride, on a horse or a donkey or a camel, and this wahi would come, it would buckle the knees of the ride, and its stomach would touch the ground, because the weight of the wahi descends upon the soul of the Prophet. It descends upon the batini wujud of the Prophet, but in the same way that your soul feels pain, your soul feels emotion, and it translates it to your physical, the same when the wahi came upon the batini wujud of the Holy Prophet, it had effects on his physical being as well. The weight of the wahi would make the animal's legs buckle. Amir al-Mu'mineen says at times it would be the coldest of winters, but when this direct wahi would come upon the Prophet, he would begin to sweat profusely, because it was direct from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would faint when this wahi would come on him. Note the fainting of the Prophet here is not that he was cutting off ties with Allah, like Allah is speaking to him and he faints and he loses consciousness. No, the Holy Prophet is always conscious. It's just his physical wujud cuts off from the physical realm, and the Urafa, they refer to it as fana'i zati. This was the fana'i zati of the Holy Prophet. His zat, his physical being at that point of that wahi is in a state of annihilation. And it is just his soul, his batini wujud, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, the first type of wahi is that talking direct from Allah. And it was an experience for the Holy Prophet, one of fear. Not fear out of, oh God is going to punish me, but fear out of the azama, out of the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And maybe this is one of the reasons that the riwayat say that when the Holy Prophet went into the realms beyond Sidratul Muntaha and reached that place of Aw Adna, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to him in the voice of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Rasulullah addresses Allah, says, Ya Allah, are you speaking to me? Am Ali, or is it Ali? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to him, oh my Habib, I searched your heart for that thing that was most beloved to you, and I found your heart filled with Ali ibn Abi Talib. So I used the voice of Ali to speak to you, so that you would feel at ease. Ya Ali, Ya Ali. So that you would feel at ease. It's not that Imam Ali was there. Allah created the voice of Imam Ali to give ease to the heart of the Holy Prophet, so the Holy Prophet wouldn't feel so in awe, would relax him. In the same way, when you get a guest to your house and your guest is a bit, especially when you may be of a higher status or whatever silliness that we attribute to ourselves, and the guest feels sort of afraid, and so you do everything to make your guest feel easy. Try and bring, although now this culture of guests and stuff, we don't even have it. We're like, oh God, another guest. It's become like that. Although, like in Islam, it is massively recommended to have guests in your home. Massively recommended. The Holy Prophet would always bring companions home. And one of the wives of the Prophet became very annoyed. She was like, every single day you're bringing someone to the house. Holy Prophet said to her, She was like, every single day you keep bringing people over, and it's... The Holy Prophet said, Aisha, if you saw what I saw, you wouldn't ever turn away a guest. So he places his hands over her eyes, says, next time I bring one of my guests home, just look and tell me, what is it that you see? So she observed, and when the guest left, Rasulullah said, tell me, what is it that you saw? She says, Ya Rasulullah, when you brought the guest in, with him was all of the ni'mah and the barakah. It was all on him. The moment he came in the house, that barakah and that ni'mah began to spread in our house. And the moment he left, I saw on his back all of the bala, all of the difficulties, all of the trials in our house. And he left and they dissipated outside of the house. It'am at-ta'am, feeding people, having guests. The narrations say that this is one of the sifat of the mu'min. But given our more modern lifestyle, and we're busy and this and that, we've totally got rid of this. We start getting cold sweats when we realize someone's coming to our house. We're like, oh my God. It's not the way. You know, the narrations say, when a guest comes, imagine this, when you have a guest in your house, offer them everything in your house. Everything in your house. Whatever you got in your cupboards. So the point being that don't hold back when you have a guest, because what this person is bringing for you is far greater than what you can give to them. Far greater. It says give them everything. You sit down to eat with them, especially if you feed them. And this is another thing, actually, culturally is crazy. I'm going off topic, but I need to say this. Culturally, it's a crazy thing. You know, we have a guest come around the house, and what we do is we're like, no, you first, you put it in. Now this poor guy is sitting there like, okay. He's putting rice into his plate or her plate, and like, I don't know, especially for us, right? When we go to, and there's usually like 7-8 people at someone's house, and they're all just, Maulana, please, you first. You know, it's very weird. Although the sunnah of the Holy Prophet and what is mustahab is that the host fills his plate first, then he gives his guest it. Then she passes it to the guest. Why? So the guest does not feel embarrassed about how much they're putting in their plate. The host must start eating first. The host must start eating first. We're like, no, guest, let the guest eat. You get that, the deaths there from your parents, like, eat that kebab. Says the host must eat first, start eating first. So the guest doesn't feel bad or awkward about eating. The host must finish eating last, so that the guest doesn't feel bad about eating for long. Imagine having a guest in your home is massive barakah. Amongst all of these things of learning the ma'rifah of Ahlul Bayt, we need to revive the sunnah of Rasulullah, the sunnah of Ahlul Bayt. And one of the reasons why Karbala happened, Imam al-Hussein in his letter to the people of Basra, he says, the reason why Yazid has come into power, ala wa inna sunnata qad umitat wa inna al-bid'ata qad uhyiyat, says that surely it is because the sunnah of the Prophet has been killed and bid'ah, innovation, has become commonplace in society. Then Imam gives them the solution. In tuti'u amri wa tasma'u qawli ahdikum sabil al-rashad. If you listen to what I, Hussein, have to say, if you obey what I, Hussein, am commanding you, ahdikum sabil al-rashad, I will take you towards success. So revive the sunnah, because leaving the sunnah creates Karbala and creates Yazids. Recite salawat, please. So the first method of wahi used by Allah is direct conversation. And this happened from amongst the Anbiya only. for Rasulullah. The second, min wara'i hijab, from behind a curtain or through a barrier. This is exactly like the first type, i.e. God is talking directly. God is talking directly, and it's different from the third type because there isn't an intermediary. It's just God talking from behind a barrier of some sort of conduit. God's voice going straight through this conduit and presenting the revelation to that individual. Unlike God telling Jibreel coming down and presenting that wahi. So this, the prime example of it is who? Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. Yes, well done. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. The Holy Quran says Musa is walking through the valley and he sees a fire in the distance. It wasn't fire, it was nur in reality. But it says that Musa alayhi salam says to his wife, says, you guys wait here. I'll go and bring some fire. Maybe we can warm up and then see the way. It was zahir that they had lost the way as well. So he goes up to the mountain. And this was the first conversation that God had with Musa alayhi salam. So he goes up and he sees it. And as he approaches it, the Holy Quran says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses Musa. Says that Musa, when he came close to it, a call was sounded from the right side of the valley. He heard something from the right side of the valley. And he saw and he heard a voice coming out from a burning tree. And it said, Ya Musa, inni ana Allah. Musa, I am God, Rabbul Alameen, the Rabb of the world. So min wara'il hijab, God is talking direct, but the hijab here, the barrier here, is the one of the tree. The tree was just an excuse for God to speak to Musa alayhi salam, but min wara'i hijab, that there is a barrier in between. Although it's not that Musa alayhi salam, the riwayat tell us that Musa alayhi salam didn't hear it directly from the tree, because wherever you turn is the face of Allah. The Holy Quran says when God speaks, you hear it from all four sides. You hear it 360 degrees, for the face of God is everywhere. The face of God is everywhere. Says Musa heard it from all around him. And this is why, like, there was one of the Urafa say that he was ill and they thought he was dying, and he was on his deathbed. And as he was lying there, he called out, Ya Ilahi. And all those that were around heard, Labbaik ya Abdi. Labbaik ya Abdi. Yes, my servant. I'm answering you, my servant. This individual opened his eyes and he said, get lost, cursed one. People thought he's gone mad. All his time he's been praying to Allah, all of this. And now right at the last time he said, Ilahi, Ya Ilahi, oh my Lord. And we heard, Labbaik ya Abdi. Yes, my servant. And then he says, get lost, Mal'oon. So it says that after that he began to recover. So when he recovered, they said to him, that point where you were about to go, you said Ya Ilahi, and the voice came and he said, no, the one that said Labbaik ya Abdi, that was Shaitan. Says, how do you know? Says, because it only came from one side. When Allah talks to you, it comes all 360 degrees. You hear it from all sides. So Musa alayhi salam heard it from all sides. Min wara'il hijab, min wara'i hijab. This is a barrier. Dreams are also, for the ulama, ru'ya al-anbiya wahyun. What the anbiya see in their dreams is wahi for them. But that is also classified as min wara'i hijab, from behind the barrier. God is talking to them. Ibrahim alayhi salam, Yusuf alayhi salam, all of these different anbiya that had dreams that the Quran is listing. This is wahi from Allah, min wara'i hijab. The third method is the one that we are all familiar with. O yursila rasulan, or God sends a messenger towards that individual, an angel, or other methods that God has used. So, to conclude this section, what we said is the first type of wahi, the first type of revelation is wahi al-nabawi, or wahi al-tashri'i. It is a wahi that has sharia in it and comes upon the prophets of God. And it happens through three methods: direct, min wara'i hijab, from behind a barrier, or through a messenger, like an angel of sort. The second type of wahi for the human being is wahi ilhami. Wahi ilhami, divine inspiration. This is the same type of wahi. This now doesn't come upon the Anbiya, but mostly to normal individuals, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, He says, وَأَوْحِينَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَى, and we did wahi upon the mother of Musa. Place him in a basket, put him in the water, that whole story. It says we revealed, we inspired. So that wahi is inspiration, it's ilhami. It's something inside the person that they know that this is the thing to do. The second type, this wahi ilhami, doesn't differ from the first type. Doesn't differ from wahi al-nabawi. It is still, in essence, it is God speaking to someone, speaking to a person. The only difference is there's no sharia. No sharia attached to it. No sharia. And the ilham of a person does not hold hujjiyat over anyone else. It's not a proof. So for example, people have that, oh, I saw a dream. Yeah, or the great ulama, the urafa, they saw something in their dream. This is not hujjah. Yes, we relay what they saw in their dream, but it is not a hujjah, a proof for us to be able to practice that which they saw, or that which they were inspired to do. And dreams, it's a complex topic. You can't just whatever I saw, I was saying yesterday that in the Q&A with the sisters, that dreams, some people say, oh, I saw the Emma, I saw this, but you don't know what the Emma look like. Shaitan can take any form except the ones of the Emma, but you don't know what the Imams look like. So he can bring you, he can try and create something as close to what he thinks that you want to see, to try and misguide you. Dreams are of two types, shaitani and rahmani. And there are certain times, and you shouldn't go around telling everyone about your dreams. You only go to the people that have the knowledge, those that are ulama, those that have learnt the dream interpretations. Don't go on Google and start, if I see my teeth falling out, what does that mean? That sort of, just don't do it. So what you see in your dreams is not necessarily hujjah. And especially in Akhir Zaman, the time that we're in, there'll be many different methods that shaitan uses. Shaitan is on steroids in this time. He is working double shifts to try and misguide people. And you will see there will be different people, popping up. There's all these different Mahdis popping up here and there. I remember I was talking to someone recently and they were telling me about something. Like how the Imam has come to me. I was like, oh, okay. Remember everything, you have to relate it back to Quran and Hadith. Yes, I met the Imam. The Imam told me that the, Ghaibat al-Kubra finished in 2020. I was like, this makes no sense. All these hadith, all of this in the Holy Quran, and you're telling me that. So we have to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant in Akhir al-Zaman. Shaitan is working overtime. So the first method of ilham, this ilhami wahi, it can come via dreams, it can come through divine inspiration, and it uses all three of those methods as well. Yeah, Like the ilham generally for normal human beings, it's that feeling inside you that you get, you know, especially like, for example, those of you that do the a'mal of an istikhara, yeah, you, rather than jumping straight to the Quran, it's recommended that you do the a'mal of the 2 rakat salah of istikhara, then you say the dua, and then whatever your heart inspires you to do, you can take that as divine intervention or divine inspiration. Yeah? But when it comes to Ahlul Bayt, now this is a whole new level. It's a whole new level. Here, I'm going to say this, I'm not going to finish it off, we'll finish it off tomorrow. Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam do not receive wahi tashri'i. And we know that. They don't receive wahi al-nabawi. They don't receive wahi like the Holy Prophet did. There's no sharia. But all 3 methods of wahi ilhami are utilized. Allah talks to them direct, min wara il-hijab, from behind a barrier, and also through the angels, through messengers that have been sent by God. Messengers, I don't mean prophets. I mean angels and those things that bring down messages from God. All 3 methods are used in the inspiration, the wahi upon Ali Muhammad. Inshallah, tomorrow. This night, is dedicated to that son of Imam al-Hussein, of Imam al-Hassan. Imam al-Hassan had 4 sons in Karbala. 4 sons. The youngest one we spoke about last night, Abdullah ibn Hassan. But then there was Qasim, 13 years old. Qasim had been raised at the age of 3 from the age of 3 by Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. For most of his life he knew only Imam al-Hussein. On the night of Ashura, when Imam al-Hussein was going to each and every one of the companions, and he tested them by telling them, you can leave, and none of them left. He showed each of them their place in heaven that they would reach after Shahadat. This 13-year-old boy, after everyone had gone, he approaches his uncle. Ya Am, oh uncle, will my name also be amongst the list of the Shuhada tomorrow? Imam al-Hussein looks towards Qasim and says to him, Ya Bunayya, kayfa indaka al-maut? My son, how do you perceive death? The reply that came from this 13-year-old boy is filled with ma'rifah. He says, Ya Am, ahla min al-asal. Oh uncle, death to me is sweeter than honey. Imam al-Hussein holds on to Qasim. Says, Qasim, yes, you too will also be amongst the Shuhada tomorrow. The day of Ashura dawns. One by one, all of the Shuhada of the companions are giving their life one by one until it moves to the time of Ahlul Bayt. The first to go out is Ali Akbar himself. He's the first. Sayyid al-Shuhada wanted to lead by example, that first my son Ali goes. But after, even throughout all of the shuhada going, the companions, Qasim was coming to Imam al-Hussein over and over. Uncle, give me permission to go out and fight. Uncle, give me permission to go out and fight. And Imam al-Hussein, tears in his eyes, would send him away. Qasim, how can I let you go? You are the last memory of my brother Hassan. How can I let you go? He would go. After Ali Akbar died, again Qasim came. He would ask Imam al-Hussein, he's asking him, Imam again is trying to say to him, Qasim, not now. The Maqtal says, لَمْ يَزَلْ يُقَبِّلَ الرَّجْلَيْهِ وَيَدَيْهِ. He says he started kissing the feet and the hands of his uncle. Oh uncle, give me permission to go out and fight. Some say that he had a letter from Imam al-Hassan that he showed Abi Abdullah. And Imam al-Hussein, reading that wasiyah of Imam al-Hassan, he gave permission to Qasim. But the first thing that he said to him, he said, Qasim, ilayya, ilayya. Qasim, come to me, let me bid you farewell. They say that he held on to Qasim. Both uncle and nephew cried so much, holding on to each other. فَغَشِيَ عَلَيْهِمَا. Both of them fell unconscious on the ground. When Qasim came round, Imam al-Hussein says to him, Qasim, let me get you ready myself. There was no armor that would fit the body of Qasim. He was so small. There was no helmet that would go on the head of Qasim. So Imam al-Hussein took an amama, he cut it in half, and he wrapped an amama around the head of Qasim. And then the Maqtal says something very odd, says that he brought the side of the amama down and he placed it over the mouth and under the neck of Qasim. They say it was like he was wrapping a coffin on a body. They say maybe Imam al-Hussein, the first reason is this, that he knows his his nephew will become shaheed. I'm preparing him. I'm preparing a coffin for him. But the ulama say, no, the other reason could be that Imam al-Hussein was hiding the face of Qasim. For Qasim was so good looking, he was so handsome, but it was easy to tell from his face how young he was. Imam al-Hussein covered his face in the hope that this enemy wouldn't see that he was just a boy and start attacking him straight away. Imam al-Hussein helps Qasim get upon the horse. Qasim was so short that his feet did not reach the stirrup of the horse. Qasim rides out into the battlefield. Hamid ibn Muslim narrates, he says, and we saw a young man coming out from the tents of Hussein. He had upon his body a shirt and he was wearing sandals and his face was shining like the first sliver of the moon. He was so handsome to look at. He says this boy came out, but the boy was crying. We thought that maybe he's crying out of fear, but then he began to recite his poetry. He said, in tankuruni fa ana najlul hasan. Those of you that don't know me know that I am the son of Hassan. Sibtun Nabiy al-Mustafa wal-Mu'taman. Hadha al-Hussein kal-asir al-murtahan bayna unasin la taqaw thawb al-mudhan. He says that we realized the boy was not crying out of fear. He was crying over the ghurbat of his uncle Abi Abdullah. Qasim rolled out, he began to fight. They say he fought bravely. Hamid ibn Muslim says the boy was fighting when at one time the left strap of his sandal became undone. Says the boy reached down in order to fix the strap of the sandal. There was a man by my side by the name of Al-Azadi. He said, by Allah, I will make his uncle cry for him today. He says that I said to him that, oh man, he's only a boy, what will you do to him? He says, watch me. As Qasim bent down to fix the strap of his na'lain, Al-Azadi came from behind. He struck the head of Qasim with his sword. فَوَقَعَ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. Qasim fell from his horse. He fell to the ground upon his face. Every shaheed in Karbala that fell called out, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. They all called out, they said, Salam be upon you, O Aba Abdullah. But Qasim was so young that when they struck him on the head, فَوَقَعَ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ, he fell on his face. As he fell from the horse, he called out, Ya Amma, Adarikni, oh uncle, come and help me. فخرج الحسين. Hussein alayhi salam came riding out of the tent. They said we had never seen Hussein ride so fast to the body of any other shaheed. He came out like an angry lion. He went towards Al-Azadi. He struck him down. He fell to the ground. The army of Yazid, seeing Abu Abdullah, began to ride their horses away. Those that were on the left rode to the right. Those that were on the right rode to the left. Amongst the galloping hooves, a small voice was heard. Oh uncle, I can't take it anymore. As the horses dispersed, Hamid ibn Muslim says, Hamid ibn Muslim says, as the dust settled, وَالْحُسَيْنْ قَائِمٌ عَلَى رَأْسِ الْغُلَامِ وَالْغُلَامِ يَفْحَسُ بِرَجْلَيْهِ وَيَدَيْهِ. He says Hussein was standing over the head of the boy, and the boy was rubbing his feet and his hands into the earth as his soul was leaving his body. Imam al-Hussein looks down at Qasim. He says, Azza wallah ala Ammik. Oh Qasim, it is so difficult for your uncle to bear that you called him, and were he to reply to you, it was too late when I came, oh Qasim. Then the Maqtal says, Hussein alayhi salam bent down. He lifted the body of Qasim. وَضَعَ صَدْرَهُ عَلَى صَدْرِهِ. He lifted the body of Qasim. He placed his chest on his chest. And then Hussein alayhi salam began walking backwards with the body of Qasim towards the tents. But you know what the Maqatil say? It's a very odd line in the Maqatil. They say, وَضَعَ صَدْرَهُ عَلَى صَدْرِهِ. He placed the chest of Qasim on his chest. Hussein began walking backwards towards the tents. وَرِجْلَيِ الْقَاسِمِ تُخَطَّانِ الْعَرْضَ خَطًّا. But the feet of Qasim were drawing lines in the sand. You may ask, How is it possible? A boy that left the camps, he was so short that his feet would not reach the stirrup of the horses. But now when he's returning back, a fully grown man is holding him to his chest, but still his feet are dragging along the ground. They say that moment when Imam al-Hussein rode out and the army began running from left to right, the body of Qasim was trampled under the hooves of the horses, the bones of Qasim broken, his body elongated. So now وضع صدره على صدره ورجلي القاسم تخطان الأرض خطا. His feet dragged along the ground. Hussein takes the body of Qasim into the tent where he had placed the body of Ali Akbar. He lies Qasim down next to his Ali. He lays in between both of them. He turns to one side, he holds his Ali. He turns to the other side, he holds his Qasim. Then he places one hand on the chest of Ali Akbar and places another hand on the chest of Qasim. Hussein begins to cry, says, "Oh my Lord, bear witness, they have taken both of my sons from me." ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Ya Allah, for the sake of these tears in our eyes, Ilahi, forgive our sins. Ilahi, forgive the sins of our parents. Oh Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. Oh Allah, those who are ill, give them shifa'ah. Bilakhas, those that have asked us specifically for du'as for shifa'ah, Ya Allah, on the night of Qasim ibn al-Hasan, give them total shifa'ah. Ya Allah, accept the azadari of all the mu'mineen and mu'minat. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq to go on the ziyarat of Imam al-Hussein this year and every year. Ya Allah, I don't know which hajat, what sorrows, what difficulties all those in attendance have brought with them. Ya Allah, for the sake of Qasim ibn al-Hasan. Ya Allah, for the sake of Qasim, remove their sorrows, fulfill their hajat, dispel all of their difficulties. Ya Allah, keep safe the azadar of Sayyid al-Shuhada around the world. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of Yusuf al-Zahra and allow us to be amongst his true muntadreen. Matam Hussein.